Webbed up with the truth. Yeah, the Molt's on deck. Knowledge web spun when the facts connect. Crawling through the dark where the secrets collect. Chatting spiders on the mic, what did you expect? The Molt, the Molt, welcome to the Molt. 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 The Molt, 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 welcome to the Molt. The Molt, the Molt, the Molt, welcome to the Molt. 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 The Molt, the Molt, welcome to the Molt.
All right, hi everyone. Thanks for joining us. So for our very first guest on the Molt, we actually have Rene from Critters and Gains here. My name is Jessica. I'm from House of Le Spood and also the host for the Molt.
How you guys doing? Thank you for having me on, Jess.
I know. I'm so excited you're my first guest.
I know. I know. You kind of hit me up with this, like, what, 2 days ago, I think? And I was ready. I was ready for it.
Oh, God. Yeah. So while we have you here, I know a lot of people know you, but I just want to do like a little introduction of yourself, basically explain how you got your Critters and Gains name, all of that jazz.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have two personas. I have Critters and Gains, which is my personal Instagram account. And then I have, well, just Rene from LLO Reptile. And yeah, two different personas. My Critters and Gains, I basically started, I would say, towards the end of 2016 when I was just getting out of the Marine Corps. And I was very big into working out at the time, but I also really liked my reptiles, and I kind of just meshed the two together. Let me fix that real fast. Sorry. It's moving a lot. Hold on. Oh, yes. All right, here's what we're going to do. Give me 1 second. Ugh. But there we go. But yeah, so I had meshed the two together, and I kind of was a little lost trying to focus on both working out videos and reptile videos, but I kind of felt like neither one of them really meshed together. So I kept the name, and I just kind of primarily focused on my reptiles. And for Triple L, I mean, I just kind of fell into it. I used to manage our Oceanside location, but I used to always go the extra mile with our social media posts for the store that I was working at. And yeah, basically they just really liked what I did, and they wanted me to keep doing it for the actual company. And so that's what I do now. So that's my second persona.
Okay, awesome. So you mentioned content creation, all of that. So I want to kind of touch base on that just because I'm a big fan of your videos. I know I've mentioned it to you before. I feel like for all of us now that we're doing reptiles, we're doing arachnids, things like that. Content creation now is a big way for us to educate everybody, right? Especially like for me, for example, I feel like there's a lot of people that are arachnophobes. So it's helped in the community with my jumping spiders doing my content creation. Now with your content creation, like I said, big fan. Can you give us any tips, tricks for those who like want to get into that and educating people online and kind of showing them a little bit about the animals that we love?
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing that I've really learned is, you know, there's a lot of humor behind social media posts, right? But one thing I've learned is like nobody goes onto social media specifically to learn, right? I've never gone on Instagram to learn something. If you passively learn through videos. And that's really how you got to grab people's attention. You want to grab them within those first 3 seconds, but educate them without them even realizing it, right? Spiders, for instance, you just brought it up. A lot of people have an arachnophobia, and it's not an unknown thing. And ideally, you want to embrace that in a video, embrace an arachnophobia video. I did a video for Triple L that had a few million views. It was based off of a giant African millipede. And I just put, I don't know who needs to hear this, but millipedes are the nice ones, right? And that just said a whole thing. It was something very simple, but it started raising a bunch of questions. And then you have, you know, people that are like, well, what are the mean ones? And then everybody's talking about, you know, centipedes, and they're not, but millipedes are, you know, naturally they're going to be a lot more nicer than like a centipede. But it's just embracing, you know, the two differences between the two animals. So that's one thing that I always do is, you know, you try to educate that, you know, so somebody who wanted a millipede or doesn't know the difference between a millipede or a centipede now knows passively. You know what I mean?
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I think it's like a big deal because I do see it a lot, especially with like people I follow. Like you're one of the people that I follow on social media. Emma from Exotics, obviously, like I follow her. Tarantula Cat, she's one of the big spider girls in the community.
Right.
You know, Richard from Tarantula Collective, things like that. They usually post like different styles of videos. So I definitely noticed that I gravitate a little bit more where I feel like I'm learning, but I'm also kind of laughing and I'm like, oh, I can relate to that. And that's what I repost a lot. So that's why I kind of wanted to ask you about that. Because a lot of your content has a lot of humor behind it, especially like with at the store and stuff. And you show different animals, things like that. So I'm like, I want to pick his brain on, you know, his content creation. What for that process, do you feel like it's a long process for you?
Not really. I mean, the editing is always going to be the longest process. That's always a huge one. One of the biggest things that I do is I'm constantly scrolling through Instagram. They usually give me, you know, a bunch of stuff for it because they'll walk by and I'm just on my phone scrolling when it looks like I'm just scrolling through Instagram, which I am. And, you know, maybe I get caught up on it a little bit, but I look for videos that have literally nothing to do with reptiles, nothing to do with the hobby whatsoever, or inverts or anything like that. And then I try to find a way that I can twist it. If I think it's funny, I will try to find a way to twist it into the favor of inverts or reptiles or amphibians, anything that's relatable to our hobby, right? And I mean, that's a big one, is just constantly scrolling and just really trying to keep up with the trends. If you look at my personal Instagram versus my the Triple L's Instagram, two completely different people. On Triple L's, I'm funny, I'm trying to make jokes, you know, messing with people, I'm bullying the employees. My own personal Instagram, there's hummingbirds and butterflies flying around me because it's just my own personal life. These are my animals. That's all I care about. Like, I'm not trying to, you know, show off all this crazy stuff. It's a little bit different.
Yeah, I mean, I like your videos too with your Aldabras. I'm always like, go take those Aldabras. They're so nice. It is nice to see kind of what everyone has at home, because I feel like being in the hobby, right? Everyone has a little bit of a big petting zoo at home, which is what I like to call it instead of a collection. I don't like to refer to my animals as a collection.
Right.
So tell me a little bit about the animals you have at home.
Yeah, you know, real fast, since you brought up the word that you don't like to use, collection, I just did a show in Arizona the other weekend, and I don't know if you know who Pale Scales is.
Yeah.
But she says connection over collection.
Yep.
And I've never heard that before, but I absolutely love it, and it's kind of something that I want to stick by because it's true. You know, it's very easy to get caught up and just grab, especially with spiders.
Yeah.
You know, they're not super big and they're so easy to just, especially when you have these like perfectly little cube enclosures that stack and sit next to each other so perfectly. But yeah, so yeah, with my zoo of animals, I kind of I think working for Triple O Reptile and being able to get, you know, firsthand eyes on what I want and what I see come in, kind of a big weakness for me because I absolutely love animals. I always have. Even when I was in the Marine Corps, I was known to be the guy that had animals in the barracks all the time. Luckily, I was the barracks manager, so I was able to get away with it. So yeah, so I've always had them, but since I started working here, it just got worse, or not worse, but I just started getting so many animals. I just recently got a green tree monitor. And yeah, so let's see, I got my Aldabra tortoises, which I absolutely love, you know, and I personally never thought that I would get tortoises. They're not exactly my cup of tea, but I love Aldabras because they're just so personable. And something about just how big they get. I just like stuff that's different. Something that gets that big is amazing to me. My inverts, I have so many inverts. It's insane. I absolutely love them. I just got eggs from do you know what a wheel bug is?
Yes.
I just got eggs from a wheel bug, so I'm super stoked on that. Pink dragon millipedes, we had a bunch of babies of those. Those were really cool.
Okay.
I don't know if you know about all my isopods, but I love my isopods. That was a big one for me. Isopods a couple years ago, there was such a huge uprising around COVID time.
Yeah.
Everybody started. It was right when the first rubber duckies made it into the U.S. and everybody was like, "These are amazing." And then I think once COVID stopped, the isopod market kind of disappeared. But a lot of people still keep them. I absolutely love mine. Isopods are a huge one for me. I think Uromasics, love my Uromasics. Jumping spiders, I have a few jumping spiders still. Those are definitely your favorites. I know that.
Nice.
My terrapins, I absolutely love my terrapins. We were just talking about them earlier.
Yeah.
I have her outside right now. She's brumating. It's weird when they brumate because she'll come up to the surface to get some air, but she's not eating. And you definitely don't want to feed them when they're trying to brumate because that food they don't digest it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I have a lot of random stuff that's just kind of all over the place. Obviously, my hognose snakes are still like my babies. Those are my ride or dies. Those are the ones that I will always have my love for. But I'm kind of just everywhere.
It's funny how like I feel like being in the hobby and you've been in it for a while, right? You kind of first started off with like, oh, like this is like my niche. This is kind of what I like. And then you go to like these shows and you see all these other animals. And then little by little, you start picking up what you actually are like, okay, like this is what I really love. This is what I'm really interested in, and go from there. But you have a little bit of everything from your pets. And I just want to touch base too on the fact that you brought up that you served. So obviously, thank you for your service.
Well, thank you.
But I wanted to ask, do you feel like your time serving and everything you learned while you were serving, do you feel like you use that in your everyday with your animal care? Do you feel like anything really applies from when you served?
Yeah, honestly, yeah, absolutely. I'm very big on schedule. Scheduling is huge for me. Without a schedule, I feel very disorganized. So feeding, cleaning, all of that stuff, that's all like I have my days for that, right? I knock them out all in days. The only downside to that for me is, when you have stuff that eats pinky, stuff that eats crickets, stuff that eats multiple crickets multiple times a week. That one's kind of a pain for me, but I have my schedules for it. Um, I'm very big on just all my lights turn off at an exact time, and I visibly see it happen. So I have all my stuff on timers, right? Like I don't know if do you know what those Casa timers is?
Yep, I do.
Or are. I use those, and it's so sad. So I could just be in my living room and I just see everything turn off, and in my head it brings some ease. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's a huge one. Even when I worked at the store, that was a big one for me, and everybody hated it because we'd have baker's racks. We'd have the baker's racks with the 10-gallon tanks on top.
Yeah.
And every 10-gallon tank had to be flush to the very front. The wheels of the baker's racks had to be aligned. Everything had to be aligned all the way down. They absolutely hated it, but it's just I need that. I need that organization. If it looks good to me, it's going to look good to a customer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Water bowls, all the water bowls had to be in the front on the left-hand side. Like everything had to, but it's easy to tell when something's off when it's like that.
For sure.
If you have one that doesn't have a water bowl, or if there's one on the right-hand side, it's going to throw it all off. So it makes the employees pay attention. It makes the employees, they can see if something's not right almost immediately.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like a lot of people, especially Marines that have served, I've taken away that they're very disciplined. And I feel like that applies with a lot of their animal care with like the schedules they set. A lot of them have a lot of motivation to make sure everything's done on time, in specific order. So that's why I kind of asked him, like, I wonder if like he feels the same way, that any time while he served, it like helps with his animal care.
Right. No, absolutely. So in the Marine Corps, we have a term. It's called hurry up and wait. Okay. So they want you, to meet up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and you're not leaving till 8 or 9. Right. And I do that here. For instance, we had that show in Arizona. It's a 7-hour drive. Right. We weren't even able to start loading in until 12, but we left here at 2:30 in the morning. They weren't exactly too happy about it. We leave at 2:30. That means we had to meet there by 1:45. And it is what it is. I like to take account for any possible, situation, whether there's an accident on the road, a vehicle mishap, anything like that. You know what I mean? So, and then when it doesn't happen, we're just there super early and we can just relax, get some food, not feel super rushed by, right when we pull up.
I feel you on that. So I did want to ask you because, so for example, me, I have all my stuff on timers as well. But I'm a little bit of a night owl, especially because for me, like I said, I don't necessarily refer to my animals as a collection. I take a lot of time spending time with my pets because to me, everyone's named, everyone has their own individual personality, especially with my spiders. So do you feel like you're up late at night as well? Because I know I am. Like after my regular reptiles are down for the night, like I'm in doing like my late night spider feedings. So like sometimes I'm up till like 1, 2 a.m. doing some late night feedings. And this way I can kind of interact with them as well. Certain spiders I've noticed have come out more at night for me.
Right.
Like my cobalt, things like that. So how do you feel? Like, do you do like late hour feedings also, or?
I do it passively. And what I mean by that is without even actually trying. A lot of times, if I'm usually up from 5:30 and I don't get out of here till probably like 9, depending on what I'm doing. Like today, I'm probably gonna be here till 9. But what I end up doing is I'll go home. I'm falling asleep. I need to get up. I go to the bathroom. I go to the bathroom. It's probably like 12:30, 1 o'clock. And for some reason, right when I come back out, I'm like, let me go check on all the animals real fast. And I have my phone light and I'm just have my flashlight on. I'm checking everybody. I'll probably get stuck out there for 15, 20 minutes just looking at everybody because I don't get to see them during the day. They obviously like the cooler temps at night and the security of no light. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say I really find myself taking care of them super late at night. Like not like that. I every now and then I'll do it depending on how late I get home from work. Usually before bed. But for the most part, it's set on that schedule for me where it doesn't need to be that way. I just find myself kind of gawking at them late at night.
Yeah. So let me ask you, because you have tarantulas and you also have jumping spiders. Do you keep your jumping spiders in bioactives or do you keep them in like the doll houses?
So yeah, so I keep I keep them in bioactives, but bioactive for me, for at least for spiders, I use it very loosely. With other reptiles like geckos and stuff like that, bioactive to me would be a drainage layer with a substrate barrier, soil, and then moss and all that. With spiders, I don't really do any drainage layer because a lot of times they'll start digging down and they get into that really rough substrate that can really mess them up. So bioactive for them would be some springtail, some ice spot, and even ice spots I'm a little funky with sometimes because they can kind of get on them when they're molting.
Yeah.
They're all soft and that always kind of weirds me out. But yeah, for the most part, I keep them on like a bioactive that's just, like I said, I use it loosely.
Yeah.
Soil, sphagnum, and was it jumping spiders?
Yeah.
Yeah, so jumping spiders, I will do that with. My Brazilian black, she's my absolute, I love her. She's the same way. I keep her like that too. But a lot of my little ones, I try to keep them either just strictly soil and vermiculite with a little bit of sphagnum moss. It's easier for me to troubleshoot stuff if I ever see anything or if something just seems off with them.
Yeah.
When it's plain and simple at first.
So I want to touch base on the vermiculite because I've noticed everyone has different husbandry care, and I feel like there's a lot of different. A lot of people have different opinions on husbandry care, right? I don't want to necessarily deep dive into it yet. We will, but not yet. What like with vermiculite? I feel like you're like the first person I've heard that like uses vermiculite besides me. So like, what like got you into using vermiculite with spiders?
So I use it. I mean, I've used it as a hatching media. It's a what is it? It's antifungal. So you don't have to really worry about too much mold buildup ever. But it retains moisture really well also, and that's a big one. I've noticed a lot of times with certain species of tarantulas that they can just decline so quickly due to dehydration. And in the winter, it can even, and then you can also overwater at times. And if you overwater, that's another big issue. So, what was that?
Benny's like, Jess drinks energy drinks at night. That's why she's up. And I have a full throttle as we're speaking.
Yeah, Benny, she just had an energy drink right before this, by the way.
Keep going.
But yeah, so I use vermiculite because it kind of gives me a like a buffer when it comes to just keeping them hydrated and keeping the humidity at a comfortable temp. It's also really soft as well when they're digging. You're not dealing with too much compaction in the soil, which I also like. It kind of helps aerate it a little bit. So that's the reason I like to use it. I've heard a lot of people. It's always hit or miss. You're never going to get 100% yes or no on any habitat setup for any animal, invert, reptile, amphibian. Nobody's ever going to be 100% because at the end of the day, we're always learning, right? That's just what works for me. And I personally haven't had any issues with it. I've had people tell me that they've had issues with it, but
Well, I just like asking because I feel like, again, husbandry care, there's a lot of different opinions, right? And I feel like, something that you said I agree with is something that may work for you may not work for someone else. And something that I feel like a lot of people don't take into account, right, is we all live in different places, right? Like you're in Cali, I'm in Chicago. So like right now, for example, like our temperatures are different, humidity in the air is different, our homes, like all these things are different factors. So I feel like that also matters with like husbandry care, For me, like I like you said, loose term for different, depending on the species, right? So like certain parts of my jumpers, like I have certain bioactive setup for them. So a lot of them will be springtails, a lot of them that need high humidity. Like for example, my hylaces, they need high humidity. I'll go ahead and use like the vermiculite. I'll use like Reptile, sphagnum moss, and I do like my regular mistings and things like that. But that has really helped me. And then there's obviously like different soils that I use, like when it's like a drier species. But I feel like it's nice to hear, that you use vermiculite because I also use it with my stuff, and like I even use it with like my plant care and certain things like that.
right.
And obviously, like people use it for different things in the hobby as well. But I mean, I think that's part of why we're here, right? Is to kind of see what everyone else is kind of using and seeing, hey, it might work for you, it might not work for you. Maybe it's something you can try out. I think that's kind of the beauty of the community, right? Is you get to learn a little bit about each other and just kind of give each other feedback like, hey, I tried that and it worked, or thanks for that tip, or hey, I tried that and it didn't necessarily work for me. There's always ways to like improve different things. So that's why I wanted to dig on the vermiculite thing, because it's like the first time I've heard someone else say that they use it too.
Yeah, no, honestly, I'm really an open book when it comes to my animal care. I think we all started somewhere and we've all grown, right? That's kind of part of it. And I feel like a lot of people just are afraid to put out any type of information that if they think they'll get any lashback. I'm an open book. Like I said, this is what works for me, right? I have my rack systems that, not everybody likes them. I'll be honest with you, I use rack systems for crocodile skinks.
Okay.
They like it dark. That's what makes them more comfortable. I check on them every day. They're literally in my office right here. I don't really ever try to hide anything. I'm not really worried about backlash. Honestly, I take constructive criticism pretty well. It also depends on how you give the constructive criticism. You know what I mean? Some people are very attacky, or you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. Well, tell me why I'm wrong. Explain it with, some decency, be a little bit more respectful about it.
Yeah.
I'm going to be a lot more open to taking that information. But yeah, I mean, that's just how I've always been with my animal care, because that's how people learn.
I love that. And it's true, like when I first started out, I like obviously just knew like the regular stuff that like just growing up, right? But I didn't know into detail like on specific species and like specific care. So a lot of what I did was I had to do like my own research, right? And so research before I even got into like the hobby where I was like at expos and actually breeding and things like that. I had to do online. I would go on YouTube, like, and I would see like different YouTube videos about different content creators, like on how they did their care, and then Facebook groups, and I'm still in a lot of like Facebook groups. And like I'll see people ask questions and like they'll like post something, and like I noticed that a lot of the times what happens is instead of people giving like suggestions, is just kind of like attacking the person. So
Right.
I'm like, if it's a beginners group, guys, like we all started somewhere, like they're asking and they're doing the right thing by asking, and kind of wanting opinions of people that have already been in the industry and have already been doing things, and just they're kind of learning.
Right.
Obviously be ethical
And
and like make sure you're taking care of the animal. But like, I think it is nice to see when people post up in beginners group and they're like, hey, like this is kind of what I have set up. You know, what can I do better? Things like that. So like, I definitely do see there's like some people that are very kind about it and they're like, hey, this is what you can do, blah, blah, blah. Then there's like the, you know, the wrong comments that you say, like where people attack. And I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah. So I'm really so it's funny that you say that. So, you know, whenever I go on you know, when I post on for Triple Up, when I post on Instagram, I have it cross post to Facebook, right?
Yeah.
And the community on Instagram versus Facebook is night and day. Instagram, it's usually pretty nice, you know, everybody's joking and stuff. Facebook is they're so mean. They're some of the meanest people out there, and I don't know what it is. I think it honestly might be like the age demographic might be a little bit older, and Instagram might be a little bit younger. It's just so much different on Facebook, and a lot of times I just catch myself on there. I'm like, gotta delete that one, gotta delete that, you know, delete that. You can't call that person that. Like, it's not that big of a deal. And in my honest opinion, you cannot come at anybody for asking for any type of advice. That's why they're asking for advice. It already takes a lot of courage for anybody in this hobby to ask for any type of advice.
100%.
And so when people get, you know, bashed on for asking this, you know, then you're now losing this person, especially people that are just starting in the hobby. That's the fastest way to lose people in our hobby. You know, this is supposed to be a very welcoming hobby. It's a small hobby. It's not big.
Yeah.
It's a very small niche hobby, and we want to welcome people in with, you know, warm hands, you know, or warm arms. You know, you can't let all these people into a show and then you have these people ask questions, and it's probably, you know, you're getting asked the same question 1,000 times, and you're going to give the same answer 1,000 times, and a lot of these people are new to this hobby. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I feel like just always being available with any type of advice and not immediately judging. I mean, I've had somebody that had a terrapin that was not doing good, and they asked me some questions, and they told me I've had this turtle for 6 months, and she's just has not been doing good. And you know, a lot of people be like, "Oh, you've had it for 6 months, and you're now finally bringing it up. What's going on?" You know, that person is worried. You know, they've probably been worried that entire time, and now they're really seeing they saw a steady decline, and it's just they were trying stuff, and now it's just getting worse and worse, and now they're finally like, I need help.
Yeah.
That takes a lot of courage.
It does.
Yeah, I've had, you know, I've had issues with my spiders too, like that. And like I said, hydration was a big thing, especially in the winter when it gets really cold. If you overwatered, that's a huge one for me. I've had that happen a couple times where I'm like, oh my gosh. And I couldn't figure it out. And I asked one of my friends, and he was like, you might be overwatering your enclosure.
Yeah.
I changed that and changed the care of my tarantulas, and they're all doing absolutely amazing now in the winter.
Which is exactly what we want, right? Especially being in the hobby. Like, we're all in the hobby, obviously, because we love animals and, like, care for them properly. And we want to show everyone else, like, hey, these aren't scary animals. Like, come and check them out. Love them the way that we do. Especially because some of these animals you'll, like, find out, you know, in the wild, things like that. If someone interacts with them, you don't want them. The first, obviously, thing to do is unalive them. So I think it is true. It takes a lot of courage to ask for help. I mean, it's a little intimidating at times, right? But I think it's like the best thing that someone can do for an animal is to reach out for help. And obviously it shows that they care. So like, I think it is very important for us to, like, with open arms, be like, hey, like, okay, so this is what I think that would help the animal, and kind of give tips and tricks. I mean, like, I get questions all the time, and I encourage you, like, even if you don't buy a jumper from me, please feel free to message me anytime and ask me any questions, even if you got it from a different breeder. Just because I want to make sure that, one, you're comfortable, and I know how scary it is at first when you get your first, like, jumper baby and you're like, oh my God, I'm that crazy, like, worried tarantula or jumper mama. And you're like, is this going wrong? What is this? What is this? So I encourage that, and like, I'm glad to like hear it from you too, you know, because it is true. It is scary sometimes to put yourself out there, and it does take a lot of courage. So, you know, I hope that we can take that away from this, because I do see it sometimes in the groups where I'm like, oh my God, like,
no
person's question.
Right, absolutely. I feel like unfortunately, from what I've seen, is there's a lot of unnecessary competition within our hobby, and it's so unnecessary. Like, everybody just wants to be better than the next person. And that's not what it's about at all. What you should want to do is try to, if you think, if, you know, if you're like, if you see somebody's setup is not up to, you know, a decent standard, your thing isn't to go around and tell every single person, oh, their setup sucks. My animals are way better. You're, what you should be doing is going up to and be like, hey, you know, have you seen my animals? Like, this is how I have my setup. I see you have one. I have one too. Check this out. You can honestly, kind of like back to the social media thing, passively educate them without even, you know, without breaking that wall of trust or comfort. Because again, that's going to make people, you know, not feel comfortable in our hobby. And you see it all the time.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I mean, like, there's people that you like do feel comfortable with that you can go to. I mean, like, I know for me, for example, like, I go to a lot of like the spider people that like I'm comfortable with. Like, for example, like Amy from Fang Hub. If I ever had a tarantula question, I'd definitely ask her, or Eli. I would ask Eli, or Tarantula Cat, for example, or even Richard, or like even Mo from Tarantula Cribs, like, or even you, obviously, like if I have questions on specific like inverts, things like that, like, I mean, there's always someone you can reach out to, but sometimes people don't have access to people like how we do, like in our little community we've already built, because they're just joining the community. So it is like important to be able to be welcoming, and it'll bring more people into our hobby, which more people into our hobby is always a good thing because it brings more attention to these animals. So yeah.
Real fast. Are we allowed to answer some of the questions down here in the comments?
Yeah. What are some
Okay,
of the
so real fast, Eden's Den, you said, I can't even put inverts on a heat pad during the winter. What is your method of keeping them warm? So would you want to go with your method first?
You go ahead.
Okay. So my method, what I personally do is I don't know if I use melamine cages. I have a melamine cage. It's basically a wooden enclosure. And what I'll do is I will put a 25-watt bulb in there. And melamine, it's made out of wood, so they retain heat rather like very well. So I keep all of my uromastics in. You can put a 100-watt bulb in one of these, depending on the size of it, and it can be 130 degrees in there because they would just retain temps that well. So I'll do like a 25-watt blue bulb or a ceramic heat emitter, and that warms up the ambient temperature in that enclosure pretty well. And I use it for pretty much all of my spiders. I have like a racked one. But again, it just depends on the size of the enclosure. So if you are going to do something like that, you know, make sure you have a thermostat in there or a thermometer in there, just so you can check the temps before you actually decide to put your spiders in there.
Yeah. I always test when I'm testing new like heat, new anything, or like a new enclosure or anything like that. I'm going to say it. I always test it with a feeder first. So I'll put a feeder in there for a couple of days. And I'm like, okay, if the feeder's doing all right, then it's safe to put in my tarantula. I use thermometers for everything as well. Temp guns, everything like that. For me, I don't like to use heat pads. I always will use bulbs. But like, for example, for my tarantulas and like my jumpers and things like that, basically what I'll use is I have shelves, and in my shelf system, all my enclosures are tarantula cribs. And on top of the shelf underneath, for each shelf, I have LED like long strips of lights. So they're actual like bulbs, but they're light. But the LED that they have on there, I can post links if you guys want to. They emit a little bit of heat, and that kind of keeps them warm, especially right now because Chicago is so freaking cold for the winter. And then I have like my spiders in a separate room from where I would keep, like, for example, my crested geckos, just because cresties want a little bit of a cooler temp. So I kind of have like that luxury. I know not everybody does, but I have separate rooms for separate things. So like everything that needs to be very warm and humid, like I have a humidifier running as well too. That will be in one room, and everything that needs to be a little bit cooler will be in a different section of the room, or it'll be in a completely different room.
All right, see? Well, there you go. Eden's Den. I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, and if you guys have any other questions, drop them in the comments and let us know.
I already know Benny's got a question. I know he's gonna have one.
So, what is your dream tarantula?
I knew that was gonna come up. So I feel like I already have it right now. I have a T. Solidonia. And that was one for a long time, and it was just trying to find one that wasn't too tiny, A lot of times I see them really, really small. So I wanted a decent instar. So I got one of those at the Tinley. I think it was the first Tinley I met you at.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, I mean, that was pretty much it. I've kind of, I wouldn't say I've tapped myself out on tarantulas, but I have my, I have my animals. I have my dream animals that I've kind of recently this year, I've really just kind of got my bucket list of them, almost all of them. My Brazilian black was one that I've had her for, I'm going on 8 years now.
Oh wow.
And it was like, not big. She's like the size of like a $50.
They're
Um, that's a
growers. They're so
crazy slow growing species.
yeah.
Um,
They're very slow growers, but they're so beautiful. And then I think like with the Celadonias, like I think people that are just getting into the hobby or maybe aren't familiar, they don't realize how tiny they are even as adults. Like they are a small spider and like they're so beautiful. Definitely the reason why they call them the Brazilian jewels.
whenever you can see them.
Yeah, whenever you can see them, whenever they come out of their trap door, they are very gorgeous. So I would agree with your dream spider. It is really nice. They are a little finicky.
That is the only that is one of those spiders that I've only seen during one of those late night bathroom trips.
Yeah,
It's the
it's
only time I've ever seen it out.
it's funny. Yeah, no, for me too. Like what I have a cobalt blue. I have a few of them actually. I don't know like what my obsession is with them because obviously
I
like
don't know either, dude. They're so
they're so gorgeous though when you actually see them. So like one time every 3 months I see it in like late night and I'm like, oh, you're out. You're doing good. Like what up, buddy? Like I have a few of those, but like my cobalt blues are definitely some of like my favorite. Do you have any old worlds?
I had a Singapore blue. She recently passed away. That was, oh God, I love that thing. I feel like some of the prettiest tarantulas are the ones that make the nastiest, most disorganized webs and
Yeah.
just completely avoid letting you see them.
I mean,
Um, but no, most of my stuff is New World. I really have a soft spot for New World tarantulas. I personally really like to actually work with mine a little bit.
okay.
So that's kind of why I kind of veer that way. I mean, I have my OBT and he's just the worst, but yeah.
No, yeah, I mean, I have old world and new world, but I am the same way. There's certain tarantulas that like I'll take out and like actually like have out with me for a bit.
Mhm.
Like for example, Credence, like he's my curly hair. I know it's like basic, but like I don't care. I love my curly hair. Um, I take him out. He doesn't seem like he minds being touched. But I take him out for a little to wander and then I'll put him back in. Um, do you know what locality of Green Tree Monitor you got,
I
Rene?
don't, Benny. I I actually don't. I was actually gonna ask one of my buddies. I was gonna take a picture of it and see if he knew. Um, Honestly, it's funny that you bring that up. That I saw that you kind of backtracked for a second. It's just like I know it's just a normal curly hair. It's not. People do that a lot, and I absolutely, no offense, I absolutely hate that. If
Yeah,
you have a love for an animal, if you have a passion for your animals, and that is one that you absolutely love, and you think it's cool, own it. You know, when me personally, when I first started, I had leopard geckos.
yeah,
I love leopard geckos, right? And then you'll talk to somebody in the hobby that's been doing this for 20 years, and they're like, "Oh, leopard geckos are lame. You won't catch me on that." That's crap because I know you've owned that. You definitely owned it, right? So don't shoot people down just because they own something that you no longer own or wouldn't own anymore because you've evolved, right?
yeah. No,
Um,
I'm telling you, I love Credence. His is like definitely the most pimped out, fanciest enclosure I've ever seen in my life. Like he has a ton of like substrate because he likes to like burrow, but on the top he has like a fancy like old school antique velvet couch. He has a little fireplace. He has little like pictures from where he got his name from and picture frames. It's like really cute, but
so there's some invert favoritism going on for sure.
definitely. I mean, he definitely gets like the pimped out
Feel like
house.
we all have those like couple animals that are just like everybody gets really good care, but then there's the ones that you're like, I really want to deck you out
Oh
so I can,
yeah,
you know what I
I
mean?
definitely have favorites. 100%. I mean, you guys on my Instagram, you guys probably see I have Lilith. So that's one of my jumping spider mamas that I have. That she's one of my breeders, but I like say it all the time on Instagram. They're not just my breeders; they're like my actual spiders. So that's what
Right.
I breed. Lilith's one of my favorite jumping spiders. She's a dark face regal. So I feel like we don't see dark faces that much, or like people like the brighter color jumpers, but I
Hmm.
really love her. And then you'll see Franklin a lot on my Instagram, which is my monkey tail skinks. Um, I mean, his enclosure pimped out to the max every 3 weeks to the nursery. Like I like go stock up on plants. I quarantine everything, clean everything before I even put him in his enclosure, and like he gets new plants all the time. It's the same thing like Credence. He gets his like enclosure cleaned out all the time. He gets like brand new stuff all the time. Holiday stuff. I mean, most of my spiders do, but I definitely have like my very set favorites. Lilith gets like every holiday new hides, decorations, everything.
That's yeah. I mean, shoot, I've seen your love for your monkey tail skink firsthand.
Yeah.
Making sure that he gets his plants.
Yeah, thank you for that. If you guys don't know, Rene, no, it wasn't Tinley. It was NARBC
St. Louis.
St. Louis. I got some specific plants I wanted. What were they? Ficus?
Yeah, I smuggled fight. Well, I wouldn't say smuggled, but
I had him bring from Cali ficus plants for my monkey tail skinks because they're some of his favorites, and they're really not that easy to find here in like smaller sizes. So thanks, Renee. Big shout out for that.
yeah, her excuse was, I still have it. She said, "Can you get me some of these?" Because she saw it on somebody else's Instagram post,
I saw it on
and then she sent it to
social
me,
media.
and I'm like, you can just order it from us. And she goes, I don't want to pay shipping. And I go, my gosh. So the next thing you know, I threw these in my suitcase and lost a little bit of space for my stuff, but whatever. She got her plants and she was stoked, and her monkey tail probably destroyed them by now.
Yeah, he's definitely been snacking on him. He's on number 2 now. But yeah, if you guys don't know, ficus, like I said, are very hard to find in my area, at least in the size that I needed them for Franklin's enclosure. So, Triple L actually had them, and they had them for a really great price, which I was so surprised. I think you guys had them for like $14.99 or something.
Yeah, it
If
was.
you guys
Yeah.
do need any Triple
Have
L?
you ever have you ever seen what that plant looks like full grown?
Yeah, I have.
It's a whole tree.
It's a whole tree. It's crazy.
I used to have one in my backyard, and I was like, what? It's crazy.
I haven't seen the post about the new tarantula, but I did see your comment prior to that where you had 0 tarantulas before and now you have 16. Welcome to the club. That's kind of how it starts. It's like chips. You can't just have one.
Not kinda. That's exactly how it starts.
How many spiders do you think you would say you have?
I'd probably put myself at like 37, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah. They're just all a bunch of random stuff. I think the last one I had was the last one that I got was a Darth Maul.
They're gorgeous.
That one, they're so gorgeous. He's kind of small still. And I don't know why. Oh, I do have a blue fang.
Oh, okay.
Blue fangs. I don't know what it is about them. They're my favorite. Those in Brazilian redheads are also my favorite ones. I just like saying the scientific. It's combo. I can't pronounce it. That's why it's fun to say. Combo, whatever. But the blue fang is such a rad tarantula. I love those things. I got that from. I actually got that in Tinley as well. That was a really cool one.
Okay, so you're bringing up Tinley. So let me ask you. I know that with your job with Triple L, you do the social media, but you guys also set up a huge section every show that I see you guys at. Can you tell me a little bit like what that process is for setting up your huge booth for Triple L and like your crew and like what some of your favorite shows are?
Yeah. Well, setup it's an absolute headache. It's probably my least favorite thing to do at shows. I enjoy Saturday and most of Sunday. Friday I absolutely dread, and the very end of Sunday I dread as well because it's all rushed. It's all a timeline. And so basically we show up and we have our animals and we have all the pallets that just got sent to us, whether it's from ZooMed, Exoterra, Flugers. We just get all of these pallets, and we have to ship it all back. And ideally, we like to ship it all back on one pallet, right? So that means we have to sell about 9 pallets worth of product to isolate it down to just whatever we don't sell to try to put on one pallet. It's a nightmare. All while trying to get everything backed up so we can make it to our flight.
Oh God.
So it's not fun. I mean, we do really have it down. It's kind of crazy. If you I did a time lapse of us doing it one time, and it was insane. I mean, we're just moving parts left and right, left and right, left and right.
I mean, you
You might.
guys finished setup faster than I did for my one table.
I think we might have helped you
Yes.
set up. Yeah, if you guys don't know this about Jess, she needs help getting stuff on the higher parts of her booth. She has a really tall sign and can't get the letters exactly where they need to be. But yeah, no, yeah, that was yeah, we really try to be fast because we just want to get it over with. That's a big one. And yeah, I mean, if you walk by, we kind of have like we usually have a system. You know, it's the same system every year. You know, we have the animals up in the front. We have decor and whatnot on the sides. We'll have the chameleon cages, all the tanks. The tanks are always the biggest one. You know, for us, I feel like, you know, we try to do, it's kind of, how do I put this? A lot of people don't actually buy animals from us at the show. You know, a lot of people do, but a lot of people don't, right? But if you buy an animal from another booth, well, there's not too many people that are selling all the enclosures and all the stuff that you need there, right? And so then that's when everybody, you know, then they'll come to us and we set them up with every single thing they need. Julia, you know, for instance, she got a hognose snake, right? And she needed a whole setup for that. And so we set her up with this really cool cage, all the bedding and stuff like that. And we were the only people that had a whole setup there.
Yeah.
So that's kind of one of those things that it's a little worrisome at times, you know, because you get these people that are buying all these animals, but they don't, you know, what if all these other companies that carry the enclosures and stuff aren't there?
Yeah.
Kind of I don't know. But yeah, breakdown's always a pain too.
All right. What are some of your favorite shows?
My favorite shows. Tinley right off the bat. Tinley's absolutely amazing. I love it. I don't really, everybody on that side of the country is just, I'm used to everybody over here. So it's fun to meet new people from any of the NARBC shows. I haven't done Dallas yet, so I'm hoping to do that one this year. But the NARBC shows, the super shows are really fun down in California. I like those ones too. The Phoenix show, that's one I just did last weekend. It's a smaller show, but I don't know what it is, but it's one of my favorite shows. The auctions are really fun there too.
Tie-dye Goddess has a sale going on. Today's the last day. Oh, that's good to know.
If you guys haven't seen me at a auction, I buy stuff for no rhyme or reason, but I bought this dehydrated Galapagos tortoise poop. There's no rhyme or reason for it, but I bought it. I don't know why. Like stuff like that. The auctions, and that was in Arizona. So the auctions there are pretty cool. And you know, the auctions at Tinley are absolutely amazing too. I love those ones. Those ones are fun because the bar is right there.
Yeah, I mean, Tinley is, I always will say it, NARBC Tinley is the Super Bowl of all shows. It's where literally everyone from the entire community gathers. It's like people come from all over the world, like to come to Tinley. So it's a different atmosphere for sure. It's a whole different ball game. It's, I don't know, like when I'm prepping for Tinley, like it's like, like I'm like ready for it. And it's always like a very memorable weekend for me. And it's always where I can get a lot of my animals that like I've really been like holding out to get, like see in person. So like that's the nice thing about the expos, right? You get to shop and see things in person. And then you also get to pick the breeders' brains, like, hey, like what about this, like what about housing, things like that. And you can get all of your products at the same place as the animal. So I feel like that's kind of the nice thing about expos, at least for me. Just I get to see different types of animals that I normally wouldn't go out of my way to see, learn about it from the breeders that are actually breeding them, and then be able to buy everything at once. So when I come home with my new baby, I'm also coming home with all my new stuff. While we're on the subject of tarantulas, do you have specific breeders that you buy from for your tarantulas or your bugs or any of your favorites?
Yeah, so I don't, I've never really been somebody to buy anything online. But that's just because I personally have the convenience or the luxury of working, you know, next to a lot of, you know, reptile, insect breeders, invert breeders, right? And I can always just wait till I go to a super show. So Bug Cage Company, I get a lot of my stuff from them whenever I see them at shows, and Millipedes and More.
Okay.
Millipedes and More is another one that I usually get all my stuff from. So those guys, those are my go-tos. But that, and again, that's just West Coast. But you know, over at Tinley, I don't really know a lot of breeders. Actually, no, Bug Cage is over there too.
Yeah, Bug
He
Cage.
drives all the way from
Okay.
Arizona he drives from Arizona to Chicago, which is crazy to me.
I feel like he goes to all the NARBCs because I feel like I've seen him at Dallas. I think he was in St. Louis.
I don't think he was in St. Louis because I would have been harassing him.
Wasn't he? But I know for sure Tinley and Dallas he's there. And Schaumburg,
Yeah.
I think so too.
That's another one I haven't done is Schaumburg. So I wanted to do Schaumburg too.
I like Schaumburg. I think that a lot of people have different takes on Tinley and Schaumburg, and like one of the things that we always say about Schaumburg is like there's a little bit more walking space, which is so nice. And now this upcoming year, like we will also have it won't only just be reptiles and arachnids. Schaumburg and Dallas will actually have aquatics, so it'll have fish, it'll have birds, and exotic mammals. So those are going to be the two shows for an NRBC that are going to have like plants, aquatics, all of that. So we're kind of merging, you know, all the worlds into one, which is kind of nice. But Schaumburg has a lot of space. It's a really, really nice hotel. A lot of great food places nearby. Parking is awesome, but yeah, a lot more breathing space for walking by. You can actually probably take like a cart or a big purse. Whereas to like Tinley, I feel like you can't necessarily take a big purse all the time or anything.
That's good. Is Schaumburg bigger than Tinley, like the actual venue? Why does that thumbs up keep popping up on my screen?
I don't know, but
Is it a me
it's
thing?
not bigger than Tinley, but
It is a me thing, I think.
it's pretty big. Rene just out
Maybe
here
it's not.
to
I
everybody.
think it is. I don't know.
It's really big. It's a really, really nice venue. So like if you haven't been to it, I would suggest you to do it just because it's a different atmosphere too. Like it's a busy show, but it's calm at the same time. So you know how like I feel like St. Louis is like that. St. Louis is a really busy, good show, but it's like calm. So I feel like Schaumburg has that effect, and it's always around the summertime too. So it's like nice out, a lot of fun places to eat after. I feel like it's we see a lot more kids, which is nice, just because like there's no school around that time, and it's more of like a suburb area. So they're two completely different parts. So Tinley is obviously like in Tinley Park, which is out more south, and Schaumburg is more like northwest suburbs. So it hits a little bit more of a different area. But I really like Schaumburg as well, and I'm obviously excited for like all of the new things and new vendors that are coming in for that, just because like I dabble a little bit in the aquatic section too, so it's kind of nice.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't been to Chicago. Oh, I mean, I've been to Chicago, but I haven't really been to Chicago. But every time I go there, I want to try to get out a little bit and check it out a little bit more. But no, in due time, I'll be able to have the time to go really check it out more because it's some of my favorite rap music comes from Chicago. So,
yeah, I mean the food here in Chicago is great.
That's what I've heard too.
Right
I've heard that.
great, but the food
I've definitely heard that. I want to go to the Chicago Reptile House. That's another thing I'm trying to figure out as well.
You need to come. So the Chicago Reptile House, for the people that don't know, is in Orland Park. It's actually owned by Brian Potter and one of his other partners as well, which is the owner of NARBC. It's honestly a fun shop. It's great. Like, so you'll see Brian actually working there all the time, and you'll see Shawnee there. So Sean. And then I go in once a week, usually for spider care. But we get a ton of cool animals in. It's a fun time. We have a lot of different enclosures for every type of reptile. We have a ton of like enclosures for your spiders. We have a ton of spiders all the time. If you need jumping spiders, usually my jumping spiders are there as well. So everything you kind of need, it's like that one reptile store that is, you know, in the Chicagoland area, and it's been around for plenty of years, and obviously it's owned by a vet, so, you know.
Well, I think that's kind of one of the reasons I wanted to go there. I actually wanted to, I was probably going to talk to Lauren about that maybe the next time I go out there, but I wanted to see if I can maybe shoot out there like a day or two beforehand.
Yeah.
And maybe you could talk to Brian.
Yeah.
And see if I can do like a quick, see if I can do like an interview with him, and then the store itself, because I think it'd be cool just to see, like, you know, here's NARBC, but here's where it all started. You know what I mean? And I feel like a lot of people don't really register that those two coincide.
They don't. You know, it's crazy that you say that, because a lot of people don't realize, and some people don't even know that, you know, the Child Reptile store is there. And I'm like, it's been around for years. It's one of the most famous reptile stores in the Chicagoland area. And or like vice versa, like when I'm at the shop working, like we'll talk about like the NARBC shows coming up, and some of the people coming in are like, wait, what? And I'm like, yeah, like, and it all started there, you know. And it's obviously like a great owner, and Brian's the best, and he's always a good time. He really knows his stuff, and all the animals are always well taken care of. And the spider shelf there, I might say, awesome.
Yeah, right. No, I haven't talked to him too much. I talked to him a little bit in St. Louis. I think once he found out that I was a Marine, we kind of connected a little bit better.
Yeah.
But one thing that I can note just by seeing is he's a really good guy. Like, he's got your guys' backs. I've seen him defend people like immediately without hesitation.
Yeah.
He seems like a very genuine person. I think that's awesome to have in this hobby.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I will always say it. Brian is one of those titans in the industry, right? And, you know, he's like a badass. I don't know if we're allowed to say ass, actually.
You already did. It's a little late now.
But he is like one of those bad mofos that's like, he's so great in the industry, and he started a lot of what we love, and he has some of the best shows. But not just that, like even just like on a personal level, he's got the biggest heart, and
badass.
He's
Sorry.
The biggest heart. He's like the first one to stand up for what's right is right, what's wrong is wrong, which I feel like is very important in this industry. And I mean, like, you'll never find someone that is just more caring and loving than him, you know, like, I've said it, like, behind all those tattoos and everything, and he's obviously very, very smart, you know, he's very successful in the industry. But like, you'll see it, like his love of how the show started from his love with the shop and everything else. And like, it's nice to see that it is kind of like family, like we're all family with the shop. And then at the shows, like you'll actually see like his mom and sister at the shows helping out. So it's like a family owned business, and it's like him and Bob, and they're like yin and yang for each other, honestly. Like we always say, like two different personalities, but it just works so well and so perfect. And they are really like a great duo, and you know, they're always very behind the scenes, I feel like, which is something that I admire, honestly, because I feel like a lot of times with like the industry, like you'll see a lot of showy offy stuff, and they're not like that. They work their own shows. They're very behind the scenes. Like you'll never really see a bunch of pictures of them out there. They're like, no, focus on the vendors, focus on everybody coming in, the kids, everything. So it is really nice to see that. So yeah, you should definitely make time to go out there, maybe do an interview with him. Forrest Galante was just at the shop.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was at the shop. He did a video. Sean was on the video. So it was nice. We got to show the shop and stuff. And like, we have like a fish section, like a saltwater fish section at the shop too. And also like a bird section. So it's like a little bit of all worlds.
That's cool. You know, I think it's funny that you say like, well, not funny. I think it's actually, I like that word, the titans, right? The titans of the hobby. Because there's a lot of them, you know, and a lot of times you don't even know who they are. Right. Yeah. Like a lot of times these guys just blend in so well and you wouldn't even realize it. But, you know, I was actually talking to Lauren about this, but like, you know, these guys, as they get older, right, a lot of us have this torch to carry as well. You know, especially right now, you know, where the economy's kind of rough for a lot of people, and you see a lot of people just leaving. It's just, which I kind of like that a little bit, not too much. But I think it kind of weeds out the people that are just in this for business
Yeah.
and the people that are actually in this because it's a hobby and it's something that they're truly passionate about. You know what I mean? I'm passionate about what I do, and I'm never gonna stop doing this. You know, I've working for Triple L. There's employees that have owned reptiles here, and then they just stopped owning it because it's just too expensive for them. Um, you're never gonna see me do that. I just can't do that. But I think I think that we as hobbyists really do have a responsibility to just kind of keep that tradition going, but also maintaining the image of the reptile hobby itself. I think through social media, we're doing a lot of good for that. I think honestly, for them to do what they did without the reach of social media is insane.
No.
But I think a lot, I think there's a lot of people that aren't doing very good through social media, like Mr. The guy that got bit by that, what was that stupid snake? The Jeff guy.
Oh, I forget his last name.
Yeah, but like that guy, it's not one to remember. Like that was a whole thing, and he was one of those guys that's just bashing everybody for no reason whatsoever. Um, but I feel like you're doing it, I'm doing it, a lot of us are doing it, where we're just really bringing a positive light on reptiles, especially for people that don't really know much about reptiles or it really hasn't piqued their interest until recently.
No.
You know what I mean? So I think that's a huge responsibility for us as hobbyists right now is to kind of just really carry that torch and keep that light going for everybody.
I 100% agree, and it is nice. Like, like the one thing I will say about social media is, I've met a lot of people, especially in this community, from different backgrounds, and even through social media, that like there's people on my Instagram page that I've never even met in person, but I'm like sort of like besties with them online just because of the hobby that like we both are in and like I randomly found their page and like we followed each other, started talking, things like that. Like I have my friend Britt from Bare Naked Leaves. Like I talk to her all the time. Never met her in person, but we talk all the time. But we love spiders, we love geckos, and it is nice. And I think like the one thing that I will say to people is no matter how big or small your following is, like what you're doing and your love for your animals is important. And it doesn't matter if you're reaching 22,000 followers or just one follower. Like you're
Right.
changing that one person's mind on animals, and that's one person more that will like love and care for these animals, and that person will go on and teach and show people and talk about it the same way that we all talk about nonstop our bugs and tarantulas and creepy things that
Right.
things are with our friends, and it is important, and I do think it's true. We have that responsibility to keep going, for the Titans after, and keep that torch lit, and keep sharing our love for animals. And
Yeah. It's okay. So this is actually really funny. Based off of a video, right? And really changing people's minds a little bit. The one video that I had go unnecessarily viral was a jumping spider. Wasn't even it was a wild jumping spider in my backyard. And he was inside of an surge protector
okay,
or an extension cord. He was inside the little hole of the extension cord. And I'm constant. I post videos on my tortoises, my turtles, all this stuff. And I don't ever really go out there trying to, expecting I want all these views. I just do it because this is just my life, and I think other people would enjoy this. This little jumping spider got almost 10 million views, right? But I think the best, and like almost a million likes, but I think the best thing about it was seeing all the people. I mean, obviously there's a bunch of people that are like, oh, kill it, right? But then there's so many people that are like, I'm absolutely terrified of spiders, but this one's cute. And that's all it takes. I actually had a few people message me. It's like, I have one of these in my house right now that's running around. Am I okay to grab it? I'm like, yeah, I mean, it's going to be a pretty harmless animal. Can it bite? Yeah. Are you going to feel it? No, not really, depending on how big it is. But they'd really prefer to jump away. And then next thing you know, this person sends me a little video, and it's a little setup, almost kind of like the ones that you sell, of this spider that they found that they set up for this little jumping spider in their house. And it was their first like not dog cat that they've ever had was that jumping spider.
see, I love that, and like I feel like that's what's so important. And it's like again, like Doesn't matter how many followers you have. Like those people that see that, it really does change everything. And it takes like that one trend to like change everyone, or not everyone's, but a lot of people that are seeing this, like, I might consider like, you know, getting one, or even if they don't consider getting one, like, like I may not kill this spider now, or you know, squish this spider now, because of that. You know, it's like a thing in the spider community. Stop the squish is like a big slogan that we all have.
Right.
So I mean, I love that. It is true, they're the cutest. I'm a little biased, but I love jumpers.
I had no reason to. I literally had absolutely no reason to check inside that plug, but I did it anyways, and I was glad I did because that thing was adorable. Did you see that video? He's like He's like, you could see him through the little.
Yeah, and the
So
little
cute.
hammock that they make and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny. They're really cute. I definitely feel like they're people watchers, and
Oh yeah.
they definitely are. They're nosy. But they do sneak into like the smallest of places. Like, I mean, I say it all the time. Even like me, like I have a nursery, right, for like my baby jumping spiders, and like I'll randomly see jumpers around my house because like the one or two that got on are like thriving around my house, and I'm like, like just babies. They're like my roommates.
Yeah.
But I love it. People really do have a huge fear of getting bit. It's crazy. I've had jumpers for years now, and I have a ton of them, obviously, because I have a nursery. But I've never been bit by one. And I'm sure if I were to get bit by one, probably wouldn't feel much like anything. But yeah, people do have a true fear. Just reading some of the comments over here. I think Rene got lost somewhere. It's helping me get over my irrational fear of the 8-legged animals. I love that. I love that. I always feel like it's a good recommendation always for people that have a little bit
Can
of
you hear me?
Now I can. We lost
Okay,
you
but
for
can
a
you
second.
hear me?
Yes,
Okay, I can't hear you, so that's a weird one.
I can hear you.
Oh man.
But yeah, I feel like jumping spiders are definitely a good
I don't know what happened.
spider for someone
That got
who's
weird.
scared of them. Just because they're cute, and like I said, even if it doesn't intrigue them to keep one or buy
Let me see
one,
something.
you can definitely intrigue the person, at least be like, hey, like, what's this reptile show? And it gets people in the door, you know? And I just feel like it's one step closer to like getting that person, and then they start seeing different things that they like. And for me, not necessarily much about the sales. It's more about just getting everyone to love the animals that I love, and, you know, us being able to protect them. And this is just another way to protect these animals. Can you hear us yet, Rene?
I can't hear anything.
Oh, no.
We were doing so good too. Now I'm kind of sad, and it's weirder because you can hear me. So.
I wonder if you can check like the mute. There's like different settings.
Okay, give me a second. Let me do that. Let me look at that.
Come back.
1 second. I'm coming right back.
Just zoom in on me, guys. Wearing my NARBC gear too. I was ready for this one. I'm a big fan of all the merch that's out at the show. So the NARBC stuff or everyone else's brand. I love rocking other people's brands. I have a lot of Tarantula cat merch. So if you guys have other brand or stickers, let me know. I'll stop by your booths.
Can you hear me?
Can you hear us now?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. You're back.
Yeah, you can thank my ex-wife for that. Sorry, guys. She kept calling. Do not disturb doesn't work apparently.
All right, so to get it wrapped up, what would you say is like one bug or spider that you're really, really like, it's on your list that you want to maybe try to get by 2025?
Bug or spider? You got me in a pickle again. That's a weird one. I told you I kind of already had all my. Is that the same full throttle?
Yes.
Or is that a new one? Okay. Well, I told you earlier. I already got my my six-eyed sand spider, which was another one of my bucket list insects. You know what? I think I just want another Australian spiny stick bug.
Okay.
I love those. I think they're super fun. There's a lot of what's it called? What is that plant that koalas eat?
Eucalyptus.
Eucalyptus. There's a whole eucalyptus grove by where I live, so I always used to just grab that. They're just very short-lived,
Yeah.
but I don't ever see them. When I like randomly, I'll come across them like every like few years. So that's another one. I always like to at least have one of them going on, but I don't know when the next time I'll come across one.
They
But
get
I love
pretty
those.
big too.
Yeah, dude, they get like this big.
I feel like
so.
Schomburg always has a lot of the stick bugs, honestly.
Maybe.
Feel
I just
like-
don't know about the legalities across them with state lines. I think that's the only issue that I have.
Yeah, that's something. Yeah. I'm trying to think. Let me see. For me, I really want to get what's my next like big thing. I don't know. I have all the spiders I can want, but I'm always at shows and I'm like, oh, here's another baby we're adding. Jumpers, I have all the jumpers I could want, but I always see some at the local shows that I'm like, oh, let me support this jumper person as well.
Yeah.
But what I really, really want with bugs right now is those velvet. I'm trying to think. What were they called? Those velvet. Were they the ants? No. Worms.
Oh, are you talking about the velvet ants, the little they're wasps.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're
I
mean,
really
dude.
want some.
They're the cow killers. We have them out here.
Really?
Yeah, they're kind of not fun.
They're pretty.
Also, I changed my mind. I want that really cool black Arabian camel spider. Those things are rad.
They are pretty cool.
Those are cool. Yeah, those little things they're rough.
They're pretty.
It's weird. They're a wasp. They're a wingless wasp. A lot of people don't know that. They just think they're like a big ant. They're a wasp. It's scary.
Yeah, no, I really want those. They're really, really cute looking.
They're
So,
weird when you got to feed them like sugar.
yeah, they're on my list. And do I have a case of energy drinks? Not in my room, but I do have them downstairs. Full Throttle sponsor me already.
Benny, you spelled my name wrong, by the way. It's just one E at the end. Thank you. That's rude.
Wanted to add an additional E for love. All right. Well, I took up a lot of your time. Thank you for everything you answered. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for being my first guest. If you guys have any questions, Rene, where can anyone find you?
You guys can find me at Critters and Gains on Instagram. Or if you have questions about something that we have at Triple L, you can find us at LLO Reptile on Instagram. I do both. If it's more personal, just do my Critters and Gains. It's,
Well, thank you guys also for joining us and keeping it live on the comments. If you guys have any questions or anything, let us know. Drop it down in the comment. Give us a like. Make sure you guys subscribe. If you guys need to find me, follow the Herp Collectors Network. Thanks, Mike, for helping us out and having us on. Stay tuned. So in another week from now, I will be back with another guest. And if there's any guests that you guys would like to have on or any questions you'd like answered for the next Spider Molt show, let me know. And thanks again for joining us, especially for my first episode with you guys. And again, thank you, Rene. Thanks, Mike. And
thank you for the opportunity. I think that's awesome.
yeah, thank you so much. All right, have a good night, guys.
Take it easy, guys.
Webbed up with the truth. Yeah, the Molt's on deck. Knowledge web spun when the facts connect. Crawling through the dark where the secrets collect. Chatting spiders on the mic, what did you expect? The Molt, welcome to the Molt. 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 The Molt.